Hello, and welcome to another episode of All by the Popcorn. I'm Emily.
And I'm Alessandra.
And today we have special guests with us. I have my roommate Raymond, and Alessandra has her brother Paolo. And today... Oh, sorry. Go ahead and say hi, guys.
Hi, I'm Raymond.
Hi, I'm Paolo.
Okay, and today we are talking about the new series on Disney Plus, Loki. Season 1 finished, a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
And the newest Marvel show on Disney Plus. I think next up is What If, right? Is that the next one?
I think so.
Technically.
Yeah, the TV shows.
And then we get Hawkeye, right?
The Hawkeye show after that.
And then Hawkeye. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Loki today. Where do we want to start?
Well, I just want to talk about it in general because I have heard through the grapevine that a certain Raymond and Emily didn't really like this show, and I was in the more camp of this is my favorite of the Marvel shows that were released to us recently on Disney Plus.
Really?
I would also say
so.
I think it's my favorite so far.
Yeah. I think I really enjoyed, obviously we had an entire other podcast about WandaVision and about Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I just was, we know how we feel about those shows if you listen to that podcast, but to me that Loki was a lot better. I don't know, visually, I think it had a lot more interesting things going on, and also I really connected with the characters in a way that I was not expecting with this show. Also because it is a lot more sci-fi, and I really love sci-fi driven shows. So
for sure, definitely got a Doctor Who vibe from this show, which was really awesome. I mean, there were a lot of things that was really awesome about this show. Yes, visually it was awesome. Even the Doctor Who-esque kind of layout of the show was really cool. I actually really enjoyed episodes 1 and 2 of the show in general. I think there were just some I'm going to say they're minor, but they kind of led me to not like the show just because of how the story turned out by the end. Just for the lack of character and relationship development, really, on my end. I mean, I don't know if we just want to jump right into it, but the first 2 episodes were just super strong. We get Loki, and we didn't really think, I was actually surprised that we got a Loki show. Out of all the characters, I mean, we know Tom Hiddleston's super popular. We know Loki's a very popular character. And he's just been a really great little side character in all of the movies kind of leading up to this show. But I was actually really surprised that we actually got a series kind of about him. I thought it was a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a very big departure from the Loki character that we have known for the past 10 years. Generally, he is not a very, developed character in any of the movies that he was in, which he was, in a pretty good handful of them, in terms of, all of the MCU, because, I don't know if you remember, Paolo probably remembers this, we were, obsessed with Tom Hiddleston and Loki, especially around Avengers time in 2012, so that was, a big, I was not expecting that we would get this show. I think if you had told us this when we were 18, it would have been insane.
Jazzed.
Yeah, I mean, that fact we had to wait 10 years, but we would have been Tom Hiddleston ages well, probably. He's not gonna, look bad or be a bad actor at that point, so.
I wouldn't have been able to function if we heard that there was going to be a Loki show, back in high school, for sure. Oh my god, you scared me.
Yes.
Sorry. It's okay.
Yeah, moved a little bit. Yeah. But I don't know. Raymond remembers. You were there, Raymond. You went to the Avengers premiere with us. That was the beginning.
Absolutely. I think that I'm in a similar mindset as you, Alessandra, that I think at the beginning of this series that we got the character that we had throughout all the different Marvel movies and the exact kind of static character that we would have expected. The thing that I most appreciated about the show, I think within the first and second episodes, primarily the first episode, is when you have Owen Wilson's character Mobius, and he completely breaks everything down for Loki and takes down all of his guard. And I think from that, we go from like the really static kind of juvenile, like chaotic character that Loki is from the other movies. And I think immediately you see him go like, oh, everything that I knew, I guess it didn't matter. And he gets like, kind of goes through like stages of depression, and his entire worldview is rocked. Especially, I really appreciated the shot where somebody at a desk, he just opens a desk and he's got all the Infinity Stones and like multiple copies, and he's like, you just have Infinity Stones? This is insane.
We just come across these all the time.
Yeah.
Like they're useless and they have no power here. Like it's just
It was Pillboy from The Good Place.
Yes.
Yeah,
The actor.
Eugene Cordero, I think his name
Yeah,
is.
he's awesome. Yeah.
Great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I loved that that paperweight scene where
Yeah.
that's how he refers to them, to
Yeah.
Infinity Stones, because I think it's so honestly very bold of them to set up this entire Marvel Cinematic Universe phase that just culminates in these Infinity Stones and this Thanos battle, and then third show into this new phase, they're like, well, forget all of that. There's something that's so much bigger
Yeah.
that is in play, and everything that you the audience, of course Loki is the subject that we kind of live this through, but I think it was very conscious of them to say, you, the audience, these Infinity Stones are useless now. Like, that's been there, done that. It's, well, you should be more interested in what is even bigger than that.
Yeah. And like very visually, but I'm touching on what you said, Raymond, about how they're breaking down Loki's walls and transforming into somebody who's like a lot more conscious of his reality now. I think that because they did that within the first 2 episodes of the show, even then, like, writing something like that is really, like, it's difficult to, like, believe that transition. And I think they did a really good job within, like, less than 2 hours to show us what he's done and how he's changed. It's just, like, writing an episode like that, like, it definitely was the best of the pilots that we've seen because of that, because it just set the scene so crazy, and the vibe was like set from the very beginning, which was like very different from even WandaVision that took a while to really ramp up, and you were confused in a different way in WandaVision where you're just like, okay, but like they're on a TV show, but like what is going on? Like we didn't get any answers for like 4 or 5 episodes in that show, and that was really, really frustrating. Whereas like the Loki show was like, this is pretty clear what's going on. They're explaining it to him. This is what it is. And that's what we're seeing. So then it's a matter of like breaking that versus like being confused, like so confused in the beginning,
I do think
I
this
will
show,
agree.
I
It was
do
the
think
strongest pilot episode.
Yeah, I think this show also did a really good job of kind of letting the information be very like chief to the experience, whereas in Wanda it was a little bit more character driven in that we wanted to see the way that she was emotionally reacting, whereas I think with this one they were a lot more conscious about, I think, putting out the information that we needed to know. And even in the end, I think that like a lot of people maybe have been talking to about how the end, this is the last episode of a Marvel show. If we really think of it like a Marvel movie, usually the climax is a big, gigantic, intergalactic fight. And I think instead they decided to just do, there was a fight between Sylvie and Loki, but I think it was more about, all right, here is the information that you're getting at the end of this show. And this is all you have to go off of.
Yeah.
And
not a lot of characters, really.
No,
like
it
a
was
very small amount of characters.
So bare bones. And such a kind of unique way to end the first season of a show, and really, it just doesn't really feel like Marvel the way that they're doing it,
Yeah, which is that your gripes from the ending and stuff, like you guys kind of devolved into what you ended up liking in the show?
I'm sorry, read the question?
Like, is that what you didn't like about you didn't like the end of the show?
I agree with what you guys said about, because especially since there will be a season 2, we can definitely probably expect more action scenes, if there even will be. I mean, there really wasn't that much action in this show, and I didn't mind that. That the couple of action scenes that we did get were a little lame, a little bit, like a little lame. So I actually liked a lot of the talking. I guess it was more of like one of my main gripes was how short it was, because like I felt like it started off so strong, and then the introduction of Sylvie and Loki's, like Sylvie Loki and Loki. Yeah, their romantic relationship was so out of the blue and almost forced to me that like, and even though I like Sylvie a lot, like I really like the character, I loved the actress, she was so great, I did not want them to have a romantic relationship. That was the farthest thing I wanted from them to have. Like, they couldn't have thought of something else to like sort of like, or just them being friends, like actually a Loki liking another Loki, just even in like a platonic sort of way, like could have started a Nexus event. But the fact that it had to be a romantic relationship, I wasn't here for it, and that really irked me. And then we kind of got to see Jonathan Major's character at the very end, right? That's the actor's name. At the very end, he had like, it was a lot of talking. The conversation they had maybe could have been written a little bit better, because I just felt like a lot of what was happening, I wasn't believing him. Like, we maybe needed him to come in a bit sooner so that we could like kind of get used to him. Like, especially with how weird how different the last episode was. Like, I just felt like we needed more time with these like relationships and characters that they were just kind of dropping in on us, like throughout the whole rest of the season.
I think the shortness of it for sure that lends to it for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with. I mean, obviously, I agree with Emily. I think the second half of the series, kind of petered out for me around the halfway point when they have the Nexus event episode, which is episode 4. For similar reasons, I felt like some of what I first was really drawn to in the show was hey, here's this character who is a villain, he believes, as is the kind of his motto, he is burdened with glorious purpose. And then he sees, oh, this is a burden. This isn't glorious though, but this is my purpose. And he has to kind of come to accept that. I think if the series had explored that throughout and had some of that be like something that propels the story, and have like different sort of character motivated plot points, that is something that I felt I would have been a little bit more drawn to, where it felt more organic. Whereas I think what you were describing, Paula, where towards the end of it, they do have kind of a lot of information thrown out to you to get you in transition, or to get you prepared for this transition into the next series, into the next film, and kind of here's the next setup that we have. I felt like as an information dump, that wasn't very satisfying to me as a individual story, right? As this 6 episodes, I wasn't really satisfied with the story that it told, because it didn't felt like it was motivated by characters' decisions or any sort of like motivation. Towards the middle part, I felt like Loki was kind of a wimp, and he went from being a character that had all this like grandiose personality,
confidence.
Yeah. And that he, I think it would have been interesting to explore having a little like, kind of scrape in his armor, where he has that kind of Mobius scene that breaks him down, breaks down his walls. And if throughout the series we see him try and put them up, try and figure out, how am I going to keep being Loki throughout this? Oh, this isn't really going to work. And had, him be the centerpiece of the show, which is sort of what I was expecting. And towards the middle part of the series, it just felt like he was like, I guess I'll be good. But like, I'm going to be good, not necessarily because that's what I want, but I'm going to be good because that's what the plot needs of me in order to forward it along. And that's sort of where I lost interest with the show, because it felt like all of the decisions within the story had to happen because we need to get to the next plot point, and not necessarily because the characters, their personalities, their interests, their goals necessitated us to move in that direction. It was more of, what's the next plot point? We got to get there. And that's something that I felt, I just felt kind of bummed out by that.
I agree with you. I totally agree. I disagree with Emily in not wanting this Loki and Sylvie relationship. I think to me it was a very emotional thing that I didn't see coming. That I was like not anticipating having Loki in a romantic sense in any way. And so that's kind of what it shocked me. And I do think that the direction wise was really well done in that sense, and to try to really like propel that relationship in such a short amount of time. And it was a very short amount of time. Of course, I wish we had doubled the episodes, because then it would be able to develop in a more natural way, rather than just pushed into these like extremely like, well, especially since they were going to all of these like doomed places, they only had so much time to get anything done. So it was kind of a way to write the story and make it really quick and snappy versus like having the actual time to settle and discuss things. So I agree with you, Raymond, about the plot thing. Like, that totally makes sense to me.
I would also say I definitely think that this was a super ambitious kind of project to do in 6 episodes, and some of the scenes themselves, you could tell that was in the way that they were written. I mean, I think particularly in episode 5, which I thought was actually the weakest episode of the whole series. I mean, it was interesting seeing this kind of void, and I loved all the other Lokis, but I felt like that scene with him and Loki where he's like putting his cape around her, like, and they were really trying to do, him and Sylvie, I mean.
Yeah.
But, they were really trying to foster that this connection is so real and it's so big and vulnerable for them. And I think that, the 2 actors did a terrific job, I think, conveying that. But, like, I agree, Raymond. I don't know if it felt really earned in that moment, and it did feel a little trite. It felt like, oh, this is just another moment where they can get closer together before the final plot point of them eventually pulling apart again.
Yeah.
Which I did feel was pretty devastating, I think, in the end, when she
makes the wrong choice.
Makes what we see as the wrong choice to carry out her, mission to kill this person. And just it was so convincing the way that Loki, I think that change really worked, at least for me, and how much he wanted to, oh no.
Oh, he lost his AirPod.
Lost my AirPod.
He's got to find it.
How much he wanted to think that through. That was all.
You get this AirPod. Okay. Yeah.
I definitely think that there was a connection there between them. I think it was just the fact that I wasn't believing that they were romantic yet, and then the very next episode, or the second Mobius comes back in, he's like, you two are in love. And I'm like, shut up, Mobius. Like, well, I didn't, like, the fact that I didn't believe it and they were telling me what I needed to believe, that's like kind of what irked me. I mean, I definitely liked them, like, going through Lamentis together, like, trying to work through this problem together. Like, I liked them together. Like, they were super great. They had great chemistry. Like, maybe I needed a bit more time. But, like, just the fact that, I don't know. I mean, I guess a part of me also just didn't want the romantic relationship. But I still liked them. I liked them as a team. Like, I think they were really cool. And I agree with you, Paolo, that maybe even though I really liked seeing all the Lokis, and we have a crocodile,
alligator Loki.
Alligator Loki. So I can never tell a crocodile from an alligator apart.
Instant icon.
Honestly, hysterical.
I mean, everything. Yes.
From that post-credit scene at the end of episode 4, when I saw an alligator with the Loki horns, I was like, that's unbelievable.
But also with, obviously, Richard E. Grant in a Loki role. I mean,
in the like what is it, like not vintage, but like the comic book Loki outfit. Like he was like the OG Loki basically. And just all of them, like their whole, it felt very like, it was obviously apocalyptic, but it almost felt like I don't know, I want to say like Mad Max, but I'm probably thinking of like another movie where like because like them fighting over who was elected to be like the main Loki was just, it was funny. It was a really funny episode, but yeah, it really kind of distanced itself from the rest of the season. It really kind of, it shook it up. Like, I don't know. And then it was hard to kind of like get back on track after that, a little bit. Just, that's the thing. I think this show just kept like throwing things in there that would just kind of like shake things up a bit too much, and it was hard to like refocus back onto like what was happening. Like it was like weirdly all over the place, but still heading in a direction. Like weirdly enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Every episode, to be honest, took place in a different place. So it was very like weirdly struck. Like we don't see a lot of shows like that, which is probably why we relate it to Doctor Who, because that is exactly the way Doctor Who is. And in a sense, like Doctor Who, like it's not like the prime television of the world. Like it's really kind of not the most easy thing to really get attached to unless you're like ready for that, right? Or like you have like an idea of what it is already. So like I felt like this one, because it took place in various different places, every episode was honestly its own arc and own thing that's going on in each episode. Like that one, you know, where he goes to the like future of Earth, where there's that horrendous hurricane and it's about to destroy this like big shop, and it's just like, this is super random. Like I feel, you know, in a sense,
and
like
even to like Pompeii, like when they went there and he was just like throwing stuff out of this car and like causing a ruckus. Like it really had that quirky like Doctor Who like sense to it. And even by the end, I kind of want to go back to what Paula was talking about, like at the very end when Loki was trying to convince Sylvie that like maybe we don't want to kill this guy, and and it's almost to a point where like we've been given the information sort of, but like since this last episode they were throwing a lot of new info at us and we maybe didn't quite have an idea of what was going on. Like you really kind of had to make a decision for yourself. Like maybe like it looks like what Sylvie did, like by the end it tells us that what Sylvie did was the wrong thing, but like leading up to it, like this whole like back and forth of like, should I kill him, should I not kill him, like we don't know who's right. And
it's because
like,
Jonathan Majors is so good. Like
he is good.
His performance, you are not sure if you should trust him. He's also somebody who is like been alone for millennia, it seems, and so he just has no like, he's just so weird and can't even like understand. He like would rather die, but he also doesn't give a shit. So he's just like, you know.
Yeah. I did my best to keep things together this whole time, but like, sure, you can go ahead and kill me. I don't care what happens to you guys. Like, if I'm gone,
doesn't matter.
I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Yeah, and maybe that's another reason why it was hard for me to like believe him in the end, because it's like he was just dropped in our laps. They has had this whole long conversation like happening between the three of them, and they're just like going back and forth, and I'm just like, who do I believe? What do I think? Do I like this guy? Who is this guy even? Like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know any of the comics. I know he's supposed to be like, I think his name is Kang in the comics.
The Conqueror. Yeah,
Kang the Conqueror.
He's a version of him. He's a
version of
he's
him.
a
variant.
Like a variant of Kang. Yeah. So like,
okay.
What we're going to see is that probably in Doctor Strange or even in Spider-Man, because there's going to be all of these multiverse things going on now because of this choice. And obviously, like, this is the next setup of the rest of Marvel. And like, it is annoying that like, it is kind of just leading up to that. And I get that that's like the main purpose of this show.
It's to really lead up to other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that's kind of annoying, but, you know, that's like, I mean, even some of the other Marvel movies, some of them were like that, where it was just like, this is a setup for the next thing that's going to happen, and that's like,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's what it sort of separates this from, I think it's fine, because the purpose of it being sort of a transition, to be a setup, to be really like what you need from this series is that there is a multiverse. Here is this character that is somehow stronger, and here is this institution developed by this character that completely trumps the last few phases that we've been working up to, like with the Infinity Stones, that through his particular decision that he said, there's a multiversal war, I created peace, by killing all my other variants, this is the one way to live life. and I am keeping and which is completely like authoritarian and fascist, but
exactly.
I think that and that's fine. And I think setting up a character like that is really interesting to have like your next big bad. I think just as the way that I enjoy shows, I'm really looking to see like kind of the little moments that kind of click for me and the things that take me out of that. In that particular scene when they're like in his study, and I enjoyed the decision to make Sylvie and Loki be at odds and for them to have a fight. I really wish that kind of happened sooner, I think, even before, because there's a scene where like why wouldn't Sylvie just rush the table? Why does she wait for exposition to happen? She does it because he's really powerful, and then he does kind of like the time warp stuff where he's like, oh, try again.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do that, right? And I think just some like slight decisions like that, I feel like kind of take me out of it, where they're like, I guess we'll just sit down at the principal's office and hear him do a little monologue.
And a presentation, basically?
Yeah, because at that point, I am not thinking, wow, this guy's the most powerful person in the universe, which we're kind of building him up to be. I'm thinking, okay, I mean, he's kind of tough. I wish they kind of would have kept fighting, or, done something to illustrate how powerful this person is, versus him in his monologue saying, giving the effect of, I'm very powerful. I feel like, for me, it's a lot of the basic storytelling thing where the series told me a lot of things which I needed to believe versus showing me why I should believe them, right? Mm-hmm. It's like what you were saying, Emily. Mobius has to tell the audience, or has to tell Loki, or Sylvie, you're in love with him. It has to say that for the audience, I think.
In case you missed it.
In case you missed it. Mm-hmm. There it is.
Did you miss it?
And for me, that's kind of stuff that took me out of the show. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why I didn't enjoy it. But I agree with you all, like the kind of like the romp through time and space, the sort of world building aspect of the series. I think that was strong. I think developing the TVA as this kind of, they had described it. I was looking at some, the showrunners had described it as like, it's this super cool time travel thing, and it's incredibly boring and bureaucratic, and they suck all the life out of it. I think that's a fun decision.
Like, it made it like, that's perfect.
Like, I really enjoyed a lot of the world building that they established in the first couple of episodes. And then in the 5th episode, when they kind of do the void stuff, I think that's a lot of fun kind of sci-fi stuff. And at face value, that is fun, right? My favorite part of the show, it's the alligator Loki. That happens it has no bearing on the story, but it's fun. And
it was random. It caught me off guard, and I just laughed for like 5 minutes straight. I was like, "Why the fuck is this here?" And it just and that was like a really nice thing to see, because I was salty. Like after the 3rd episode, I was just watching it to watch it. But then the fact that Alligator Loki was able to like kind of bring me out of my funk and like be like, all right, Emily, just like enjoy the rest of the show. Like there's random shit that's going to happen and it's going to be fun. Like,
the kid was great as well.
Stop being such a downer and just finish the damn show. Like, which that was Alligator Loki for me.
I thought that the quirkiness definitely mirrored some of the quirkiness that we saw in WandaVision. Obviously, like, there was a lot of playfulness in that show as well, with the different kinds of episodes, like, especially, like, the Malcolm in the Middle episode and the Modern Family episode, and just, like, the fun that we had in that show before it got really, really serious. I thought that was definitely fun, because that's what we want from these Marvel shows, to really have a lot of time to have this fun that we don't really have in the movies as much,
I will say that the addition of Owen Wilson to this show was the best possible person they could have gotten, because I think that he was so, in a very specific Owen Wilson kind of way, like really not a part of the fabric of these worlds that we've been used to in Marvel. Yeah. And really kind of just so like delightful, and just the jet ski detail of he just, of course we learn why, maybe he had a jet ski in a past life, but, just that was what his personality was. And I loved those scenes that he had with, Renslayer, Gugu Ra.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
I really think that was, that obviously, everyone's going to talk about the scenes between him and Loki, and that first episode, the sort of, it was almost like a play, just the way that there was such a clear objective that both of the characters had, and they played them so perfectly, and it was such a well acted and well done scene. Yeah. But I do think that the scenes with him and Renslayer are a little underrated, and I think that the power dynamics there were a lot more skillfully portrayed, especially in the end. When he's kind of taking the phone, and I thought it was a very mature performance, of course, from Owen Wilson, but I think it was more wonderful that they included him in the first place. That this is the kind of actor that you get in Marvel's new phase. That you're not going to get the Chris Hemsworths and the, a lot of the typical kind of easy casting. And I think it's a little more zany and a little more out there, like Catherine Hahn, in WandaVision. Yeah. And it was a perfect comedic casting for a role that I don't think a lot of people would have expected Catherine Hahn to play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that was really well done.
Yeah, and could they have easily given Owen Wilson's character to someone else that maybe we didn't recognize? Because when you who Owen Wilson is, you know him by his voice, you know him by the funny
personalities
personalities that he plays. I think he did such a good job that I forgot that this isn't Owen Wilson. This is Mobius. This is a character that we've come to love. And this, just the fact that he's such a big name, didn't take away his character at all. He really did a wonderful job. And definitely with Renslayer as well. I thought she was really great. Her character arc was, just her being obsessed with finding this variant who's just been, avoiding her all of her life, basically. They tried to capture her when she was a child, and then she still got away, and then she's just been avoiding them. And even when her entire, just idea of the TVA comes crumbling down, she still is so, I guess not close-minded, but I guess she's still, hyper-focused on her mission, which is still getting this variant, because she has nothing else to live for now. Her whole idea of everything, her whole life, her whole thing that she's built for herself is just done.
Yeah.
And I will say...
Yeah, it was a lie.
I will say that curtain, behind the curtain moment at the end of episode 4 where, you see Sylvie decapitate these
robots?
TVA, what were they called? I'm sorry.
Timekeepers.
And just the fact that they were robots, I think was the most, I didn't expect that even a little bit. I remember even watching it for the first time, I was so surprised that we actually got to see the Timekeepers in episode 4. I thought that was going to be the end of the show. I thought it was they're going to go on this wild ride, and at the end, it's going to be Sylvie and Loki in front of the Timekeepers, and that's where we will have our climax.
But I knew that they were gonna not do that. I've watched so much fucking sci-fi that, in my brain, I knew that was not the be-all, end-all. They were setting it up the Timekeepers were the be-all, end-all. They're the ones who made this choice. And I was just oh, they're not real. There's no way that it's 3 people who chose.
I
lizard
did not
people.
Think that at all.
No. This is not the way that it is. I just
clairvoyant.
Great job, Alessandra.
I'm just saying.
Well
I watch a lot of.
Good thing I wasn't watching this with you, spoiling it.
I didn't.
I know.
But I definitely told Danny. I was they're not real. In the beginning, I was this is all a lie. This is not true. There's something up with it. There's not.
I knew there was something up, but I didn't think they were robots.
I didn't think that they were real.
And also the swiftness of action. I think that of her just throwing a sword, and decapitation,
it wouldn't be that easy. Come on, nothing is that easy. It's never gonna be that easy. So when it is, you're skeptical, and you're is this not? Yeah. We really got to keep fighting for something, which is why Jonathan Majors' character was kind of the antithesis of that. He was not a god-like figure. He was a quirky guy who was really lonely and just didn't really care.
Weird.
Yeah. He was just really weird. And I think that it's just it's unexpected. It's not what you think is gonna happen, and it's not what you probably wanted to happen. And that's why it's kind of like, oh, like, they did something different. This isn't what we expected. I mean, like I said, I didn't expect Loki to, like, fall in love. Or even that episode where Mobius gets, like, he gets, scalped or whatever?
He gets
pruned.
phased or something or whatever.
Yeah,
pruned. There we go.
He gets pruned, and you're instantly sad because you're like, oh, we really got attached to this person, and now he's dead. And then, obviously, when it happens to Loki, you're like, oh my god, like, it's really shocking. You don't expect that would happen, and then he wakes up in, like, the, other place, the pruning place. I don't know what it was.
The Void.
Yeah. The Void. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's like, it subverts your expectations as you're watching.
Yeah, and I like that, I like that, I'm glad that it didn't go the way that, like, I thought it was gonna go, because I'm just a fan. I don't know what's good writing. I don't know what's good for the phase 7 of Marvel. Like, I'm just a fan who just enjoys the content that's given to me. So, like, I did enjoy a lot of parts of this show, and I didn't hate it completely, but, like, there were just some things that irked me, and it's not my favorite. I still think WandaVision is my favorite one so far.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Just because even though it was slow to start, and, like, maybe they could have used that extra episode that was just still keeping us in the dark in the very beginning, like, maybe they could have used that for something else, but I still think it rounded out and, like, finished up, like, and that's the thing. And that's also a very different situation. Like, it actually had somewhat of an end.
Yeah.
Had somewhat of an ending. This one has a continuation. So, I mean, I'm excited for season 2 for sure. And of course I'll watch it, because Marvel take my money, like, forever. So, I'm going to watch it.
I mean, I would love to see all these characters, and obviously we have a different Mobius in the end, which was really upsetting when Loki comes by and he's like, Mobius, this happened. He's like, who are you? What? And it's like, oh, there's...
everything got changed.
It's like, it's a different universe. But you know who I'd love to see 100% in any of the next movies is Wunmi Masako, who was, like, the Hunter B-15. She was, like...
Yeah.
So good. I love this actress. I think I've seen her in Shrill.
I wasn't.
She's in Lovecraft Country as well.
Yeah.
I
like her.
I think it was a great performance from her, to be honest.
Weird character.
I thought it was... I think it was a voice thing. I think there was something about...
the British accent and everything?
Yeah, maybe it was that she was changing her accent. I don't know. There was something about her performance that felt like it was a little contrived. Especially compared to, I think, the rest of the cast. Mm-hmm. That was at least how I felt, is that there was some really strong acting. And I don't think, she did a terrible job. I mean, everybody did a great job. Mm-hmm. But I didn't feel as I think, attached to her arc. I did love that moment, though, when she was in the parking lot.
With Sylvie.
With Sylvie and experiencing her old life. I think that was really one of the first times that I really felt who that character was, and that there was something deeper happening, and it was.
And they don't show that as well. Right? They don't show what her. It's just all her, which I do think is a great sell. I think that's because they go through the other
Hunter C-20.
They go through her kind of
past or something.
Through her past, and you see kind of it's Sylvie interrogating her, trying to find information. And then you see Renslayers, and both of those serve their own sort of purpose. So I don't think it's necessary for you to see B-15's past, because it doesn't serve any purpose. But I do think that it's just a solid kind of scene stealer to try and just give her that moment. So yeah, I agree with you, Paula.
Mm-hmm. Also, talking back about Sylvie, I saw on Instagram there was a picture of her, and she had shared that the costume designer made her.
I sent that to you.
Yes, like her.
Because Kimmy sent it to me, I think.
I think I saw it on the like Marvel something, and. Yeah. Basically, like, her costume could be removed easily so that she could breastfeed her baby, which is, like, incredible because, like, the actual costume designer, I'm just gonna find her name, like actually made that for her because of, you know, she's a working mom and she understood. It was so cool. I loved it very much.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially the all of the production design and costume design of this was, I think, certainly, you know, on par with WandaVision, which was so stylized. And I think that this was such another, you know, it was so just outwardly stylized. And I think that, like, they did, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier was great, but they didn't take a lot of risks when it came to production design and costume and set. And, you know, I think that this was a lot more like, let's get as specific as we possibly can get. And I think it really paid off. You know, they definitely talk about some of the lighting elements, especially that room that we see in the first episode when Loki's in line, he has the number and it's just hundreds and hundreds of lights above, and is this like kind of play on a sort of bureaucratic environment, but it's almost like we don't know where these lights are coming from. And you know, there was definitely such a knowing kind of monotony and bureaucracy of the way that the you know, the sets were built and the way that the environments were really shaped. And I think it was so wisely done.
Yeah, we had the costume design by Christine Wada. A lot of the set direction, it says the production and the art direction is a lot of women. The set decorations by Claudia Bonfi. The series production design is by Kasha Farani. The writing, like, and I remember that the main director is also a woman, and it's like it's fantastic that Marvel has like this entire. I mean, it really is like a very women-led show.
Definitely.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think the director, when they brought her on, that was kind of her. I think her decision to try and make sure that the crew, that the crew had gender parity and that there were more women represented, you know, behind the camera.
It's great.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was excellent. And also the music was excellent.
It was interesting.
The theme song?
It was kind of bizarre.
So the theme song is what made me think the most of like Doctor Who. Like it was like didn't sound just like it, but like it definitely made me think of it a lot. And it was great. Yeah. It was a great theme song.
Yeah.
I even love like the end credits, like with all the forms and like all of the so detailed.
I would watch it every time because it was like so dramatic too. The music was just really booming at that point at the end of the episode, and I feel like you just were released and you're just like, oh, you know, like it always gets. And they kind of felt like that with WandaVision as well. You know, whenever it would end, you'd be like, oh my god, like now we have to wait another week. Like you know. Yeah. So
I definitely think that this show got me. I mean, I was already excited for this new Doctor Strange movie. You know, it being called Multiverse of Madness sounds amazing, but I think now more particularly, I'm very excited to see what the fallout of this event is. You know, and that I think we're going to be dealing with the fallout from this show for the whole this whole phase of the Marvel Cinematic
all
Universe.
Three of the shows too.
Definitely.
Because like they all left it in a way.
But you know, a little bit to a lesser extent though. I mean, this was on the most gigantic scale. And I think we're going to see, you know, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like we're going to see some of those thematic elements of the people who wish that the blackout had still happened, you know, like that, the flag smashers. We're going to see some of that obviously staying. And I think that, you know, the effects of Wanda's unhinged sort of, you know, foray into taking over a town and you know, messing with a lot of people psychologically. I think we're going to see the effects of that. But I think the effects of this
power as the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, it's true.
Since she's like fully like transformed to the Scarlet Witch, and I hope Loki learns how to do his does that
enchantment
trick. That enchantment, which I thought he could already do, but what I don't know. I guess I'm confused about what is different about it, because he could already with the Tesseract he could like take over people. Is it? Basically,
I also thought he could already do it, but I guess that was just
that was just the Tesseract. That wasn't him. Oh, like Sylvie can like go into people's minds, but like he can only just like duplicate himself. Really, he's just an illusionist, like in that sense. That was just what he had. But the other Lokis had various other things. Like they were pretty cool. Like
the scene that killed me, which was in the very beginning. It was basically seeing like that Loki had died, like him seeing his timeline end, so that it pretty much it was like confirmed that when we saw Loki at that time, he was dead, but now he's back alive. Like that's crazy, and I love that. I love that like messing with your mind shit that like that Marvel does. Like keeps me on my toes. I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, I think with the multiverse, we're going to discuss it a lot more. It is a little bit more difficult to say, like, what is real and what's not real, because if there's a multiverse, there's a reality in which everything happens, and the canon is a little bit blown out. So I don't know what they're going to do, and I don't know. I trust those writers. They can figure it out, whatever. Like, we're going to enjoy it.
What we do know is that Kang the Conqueror is going to be a big figure, I think, in the next at least few, universe movies. Because I just love the story that this all happened to in like 1,000 years after the events of Endgame. That this wasn't even something that was supposed to happen in the same relative timeline as the Avengers, that this was just an inevitability from someone down along the timeline, that they would come up with this realization in this timeline, and that it was always going to happen at a certain point.
It's like Tenet.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
Remember
true.
that movie Tenet, Emily? It was like the same thing. Like the people sending things from the future, and they were like it was like the future was not there anymore, so they were sending things back.
Yeah.
And that was like, the movie just made half sense the entire time, but
What's interesting to me, like I'm curious about that because at the beginning of the show, right, we see this whole series is based off of the scene in Endgame when Loki disappears and he starts his own timeline. Yeah. And from the series branching out, right, the entire thing is essentially not supposed to happen according to this particular Kang and this particular TVA timeline, based on everything that they're sort of curating. So what I'm curious about is where does his other versions show up now? Because he says that he had killed all his other variants, but now and on kind of our Endgame timeline where we go up to WandaVision, where we go up to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're not on that timeline. We were not expecting to run into any of his other variants, so we weren't supposed to have him as the big bad. But now that we go into this other version, we've unlocked a door where there are supposedly now there's going to be different versions of himself, right? Isn't that kind of the implication by the end, that he's started a new timeline in this already branched off Loki series timeline, right? We weren't supposed to have any other variants of Kang the Conqueror, but now we do because of Sylvie. Yeah. And that is like I don't know, I'm now that makes me more curious to see how that interacts with the rest of what they have on their production line.
Oh yeah.
Well, what I've also heard, not heard, but I think what people are theorizing too, and especially when Doctor Strange was announced, I think a lot of people are talking about how maybe this could be the way for Marvel to bring in X-Men and to bring in heroes that they could not have introduced before, the Sony, 21st century.
That's what I thought that was going to happen
situation.
in WandaVision, and it didn't. And
Me too.
I theorized that in WandaVision, that she was producing the X-Men.
That she was going to be the one who created an alternate reality.
In WandaVision, the daughter of, what's her name, from Captain Marvel, she was in the show, and she got those powers because she, walked through Wanda's,
Rambeau.
Yeah, Rambeau. Yeah.
Monica Rambeau.
Yeah, and like she walked through
the
and
force field.
Yeah, and I thought that, she turned into an X-Men because she did that. And I mean, it essentially kind of did. But I was like, is this Storm? Because she, like, can
but
do that
now? But they gave her a different name.
Yeah, and I was
it wasn't
is she
the
not?
name that I think a lot of people expected.
I thought it was going to be that, like, whoever, like, Wanda came into contact with in this town would now become the X-Men because, like...
They would mutate.
Exactly.
And they're all from New Jersey.
Yeah.
I know, and everybody's from this one fucking town, it's like... Yeah, but... That was my idea, but I think it would have blown it open too much, and it was already too focused. Which I'm glad it kind of didn't go unhinged like that. It was, a little bit more specific.
I mean, it already had gotten slightly unhinged when the other Quicksilver showed up, and
like that was like, what the fuck?
I was
Neutral
like,
vision.
okay, wait a minute here.
Where's he? He's gone. Like we didn't even see where he went. He just.
And this isn't even the right one. It's the other one. It's the other one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Crazy.
Oh my gosh. That was funny.
Yeah, that was just, I like this open-ended thing. And I do have a more, back when Tom Hiddleston kind of betrayed us. I think it's... I'm not like 100%. I didn't 100% forgive him, but I definitely like him a lot more than I did when that happened. He's definitely in my better books now, and I'm a fan of his again. Which
he's been in my better books for a while. I just never thought about him that much as I used to because in high school we were literally in love with him.
Yeah, it was like,
and it's just
over the top.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
Uh-huh.
Take it from us. It was bad. And take it from Raymond. He was there.
I wasn't.
Raymond,
and to think like you both had stopped with your obsession with Tom Hiddleston, and there are people that have not since 2012. That this show comes out and their head exploded.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, they didn't even get to watch it.
When I saw this, I was like, okay. I mean, it's Marvel, so I'm gonna watch it. It's Tom. Whatever, I'll watch it. Like,
Tom's great. Though.
Yeah,
like
Tom was really good. He was really great.
Yeah, I will say that I really do feel, as someone who is not obsessed with Tom Hiddleston and was not really, I wasn't
Paolo?
really that, maybe a little bit.
I mean, he's a British actor. We're all obsessed with British actors.
But I wasn't like also that interested in Loki, just in general. Loki was always on the periphery in my mind. Like, of course, he's the villain of the first Avengers, and I like that movie a lot. I think it's so fun. And I liked him in that movie, but like I also was kind of like, well, you've played your part. You're on the periphery. And I think that this show was really successful in actually making me feel a completely different way about this character and like have, not just in that making him a good guy, like, and making him sort of like good, but I think it was, just such an interesting way of making me have a completely different relationship to the archetype of Loki and this idea that history repeats itself and that Loki is the architect of his own destruction always. And that, you will always be alone. And I think that like finding a way to break that open was so fascinating for a character that I had no feelings about. I mean, honestly, WandaVision was the same way. Felt so little for, Scarlet Witch for Wanda, and just, the way that they used that show to explore the process of grief was so, it made me feel so much more for where she came from and where she's going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really good that they explored that in that show for sure.
Honestly, I will even say that Falcon and the Winter Soldier did that too. I mean, I don't care anymore about Bucky, to be honest. I think that was, but actually about Sam, about Falcon. Like, I mean, I think that was it was his show, like, and it really paid off, I think, in the end.
Yeah. In the end, it was good. It's just really like everything else was like not amazing.
Well, that's for a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's what we talked about in the other podcast. So.
Well, I will say, now, we were on a string of me agreeing with everybody, but I I'm curious now, after, what is Loki's character going into Loki season 2 rest of Marvel, right? Because his whole thing was that, you know, I'm Loki, god of mischief, so I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do things because I'm selfish. And then, right, the drawing that I had from episode 1 was, oh, that's meaningless. What am I going to do now? We start to see, I suppose, hints of what his character is going to be like. And for me personally, I'm not super excited to see. I
Sad
don't
Loki.
see a lot with that. You know, or he's not even necessarily sad. Like, I think in the last 3 episodes, I still stand by, he's kind of a wimp. He's just kind of doing whatever. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, isn't particularly interesting. Mm-hmm. Like, I still, like, from when Sylvie showed up to the end, I'm like, Sylvie is interesting. I want to see what she does. Mm-hmm. Even though she's a pretty static character, she doesn't grow. She's entirely motivated by revenge, which I think is kind of a weird thing for Loki Prime to fall in love with. That her whole thing is that the TVA fucked me over, and now I'm going to get my revenge. And Loki's like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah. Why is that a catalyst for them to have a relationship when they haven't really done anything except they both almost died? Like, that doesn't make that doesn't make love. But if you need it to make love, then sure. But I'm just kind of curious, like, his going into the next season, I don't know what his character is beyond, I guess I'm the person that's got to solve this problem because I'm the guy that knows what happened. Yeah. That to me isn't necessarily like a hero or an anti-hero or whatever, like, Loki should be. Yeah. I can't say one way or the other what he should be. It would be interesting if he was like an anti-hero, and I think if he was still struggling with being kind of a bad guy, but he still kind of wants to be a good guy because he feels bad. Yeah. Like, I think that's an interesting thing to carry forward, and I would have liked to see that through Loki season 2 instead of seeing that payoff immediately. Right. Mm-hmm. Now he's a good guy, and he kind of loses some of, I think, his luster for me. Yeah. I agree. That's something that I don't know. I hope that he has some further character development instead of just sticking with where he is at the end of the end of this series, because then I think I would be more roped into him personally as a character. The story, I think I would watch the story regardless because I find the whole ramifications of it interesting. But him as a character, I'm now back to, well, now you're kind of on the periphery to me. What else happens in your story? You know? Yeah.
You're so right, Raymond.
It's true. Really.
Thank you for putting that fear into my mind, Raymond.
Why are you afraid? What did I do?
No, because honestly, I think other than the actor being Tom Hiddleston and being in love with Tom Hiddleston, like, Loki was great at being a mischief, was great at, like, being a prankster, was great at being really funny and, like, just being really cocky and kind of sexy, like, obviously. But, like, I mean, I hope that they can give him a trait or something that's not like redeemable, but, like, you know, just something to keep us engaged. Mm-hmm. Because even though I kind of liked little sad lovesick Loki, like, I don't want that to be forever. Like, he needs to find his new thing. He needs to, I don't know, gain some confidence back or something. I don't know, but, like,
I feel like this is definitely fueled by Tom Hiddleston and the choices that he wanted this character to happen. And I feel like he was a big part of deciding what he wanted Loki to become after playing him for almost 10 years. And it's just like, he probably was like, I'm a serious actor. I want to play him a very emotional way and have him have this emotion that we didn't see hardly at all. I mean, we saw it a little bit in, like, Endgame, like, or in Infinity War, but, like, it's not as it's not like, I think, like, Tom Hiddleston himself was probably like, listen, like, I'm a Shakespearean actor, I really want to be a Shakespearean character and have a lot of emotions and things, so I'm gonna put this out and become this person, and it's kind of crazy how he's the very instrumental in developing who Loki is. And I agree, he becomes a little flat. So hopefully he can add more Shakespearean aspects to it, because that's like his entire thing. That's like Tom Hiddleston's like MO. Yeah. So
is there a comic book that's about like Loki becoming good? Like is that idea canon, like within the comics? I'm interested to know.
Sure. Probably.
I don't know. I think there's lots of different iterations of every character. Yeah. You know, I like that there's a lot of different variants of Loki that we got to see, who ended up all becoming kind of like a similar thing, especially with Richard E. Grant's Loki, kind of coming to that realization that being alone is not what he wanted, and he grew old and became a variant because of his choice to actually go back and see his brother. And that was kind of like, oh yeah, like Thor's his brother. Like, Loki loves Thor. Like, we didn't really have a lot of that in this show, and I feel like that Richard E. Grant kind of brought that back to what Loki is as a character. And like in Ragnarok, he has that kind of
He's a brother.
relationship.
He's a son. Like, he has parents that he did care for at one point. Like, maybe not his father very much.
His mother and
his
stuff.
mother loved his mother.
Yeah. So that was really good that was like a small aspect of it. I do wish we had more interaction with Asgard and Loki's character before, but that's just not, you know. So.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
Well, we don't really have any
lasting comments.
Yeah, we can just check up on these plot keywords here. We've got
yes.
Marvel Cinematic Universe, Shared Universe, Marvel Comics, based on a comic, based on comic book.
Those are lame.
Those are lame.
They're terrible.
Where are the other ones?
30 more.
Those shouldn't be the first 5 that you see. First 5 or 6, however many are usually there.
There's always more. There's like God, Loki, Norse mythology. Antagonist is protagonist. That's legit. That's legit.
Surrealism, that's true.
Male security guard, female security guard. Woman wears a uniform.
What?
Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I love seeing her in things. I'm a big fan. She's up and coming. Even more so.
No, we don't have much of it. Oh, there are critic reviews, but there's not really a meta score for this, so we can't really go over that.
Nah.
But thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Paolo, for joining us. This was a really fun deep dive discussion, basically.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, having people, it really brings new perspectives, because there's only so much Emily and I can talk about.
Yeah. And if you love listening to Raymond talk, he was in another one of our episodes. I checked. You didn't think you were in it, but I checked. He was in our Spider-Man Homecoming episode. And Paolo has been in our solo episode, I believe. And
that was the last
La La Land.
La La Land,
was that it?
Yeah.
La La Land.
I think that was
Might have been some other
Yeah,
ones.
I think those too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. We're also now on Spotify. And if you need notifications on future episodes that we release, please follow our social media. We have Twitter, @ByThePopcorn, Instagram, @AllByThePopcorn Podcast, Facebook. Just search All by the Popcorn Podcast and like our page. We also have a YouTube channel where this video, if you're watching it, is going to be posted, which is All by the Popcorn Podcast. Please subscribe to that. We also have a TikTok now. What's the thing @All by the Popcorn Podcast? The whole thing?
Yep, that's right. We're putting a lot of funny videos on there now, so go check them out.
Yes, the content engines are going. It's really fun. I edited my own video, and it took forever, but I loved it, so I can't wait to do more. And then lastly, if you just want to say hello or give us suggestions on future shows or movies to talk about on our podcast, please email us at allbythepopcornpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Talk to you next time.
Bye.